Good evening, everybody. This is Lyrata Barrett for the Institute for Global Transformation. It is the actual date, October 16th. It's been a while since we've been together. You have been working, hopefully, on the mountain meditation from several months back. And ideally, if you've been doing that work, the time that you've spent on it has been quite purposeful, meaningful, even though it might have been 2 or 3 months in between, because it takes a little bit of time to actually deepen into this meditation in ways that you begin to see the results. Today, what we're going to do is assume that you've reached that mountaintop. And we're going to take a moment as we stand on the pinnacle of that mountain and look around and see what it is we see. We're going to be doing this more so in a meditative way. So this entire session will be, in a sense, a meditation. I hope all of you have been well. I've missed our connection and our sessions. But sometimes a little break is needed in order to be able to inhale and exhale and to experience the necessities, the lessons really of our lives. So let's take a moment and go inside, okay? And put yourself in a receptive mode where basically you are simply with your eyes closed and you are allowing the sound of my voice and the information that comes through to bathe over you. And you're taking it in like a sponge, so to speak. You're receptive. So by now you've reached that mountaintop. And if you recall, the whole purpose of scaling this mountain was to be an exercise in moving from an emotional polarization into a mental polarization. So we are kind of spanning a bridgeway, crossing a bridgeway. This particular session takes us across that bridge. So it's an important session, and I would ask that you give your full attention to this directive, this meditational moment, so to speak. So after this incremental, lengthy climb up that mountaintop, where you're scaling round and round each night, moving a little higher on the spiral each time. So what do we find upon scaling this mountain? Look out and observe the scenery. Standing on top of this mountain, we see hills and valleys stretched far out beyond and below us. We see farms and villages, streams and rivers, cities and darkness. In the distance, we see oceans, rivers, plains, hills and valleys. Looking deeper, we see fellow human beings, some whose shoulders are stooped with the burden of their lives, and others we see are erect and joyful and full of life. There's the world peopled that we see below, with millions of human beings all alone. Some locked within a prison of flesh and thought and emotion and heaviness. This is the grave of the spirit. And others, that inner light of the spirit burns brightly throughout them and radiates from a point within this inner prison, unblocked by the grave of the spirit at all, and are able to reach out and radiate that light and touch others. We connect with those whose light is strong and able to radiate outward and touch others. We automatically resonate and seek to connect with that energy. But there are many who live in fear, who are afraid, and allow that fear to cover them, to block out their light and burrow them deeper into the mass of darkness that surrounds them. As we look out again, still on this pinnacle of the mountain, we look down through the clouds because we stand above the clouds. You can see that place from which you yourself have arisen. And those whom you would seemingly have left behind. Take a moment and look upward into the vast sky to see the sun radiating down upon you and upon that mountain top itself, upon the clouds, and the terrains below. As you look into this sun, you see its exterior. First, its golden hue. But if you look deeper through that golden hue, you begin to see a steady blue inner center, like a great all-seeing eye, and the orange corona, which leaps far out into space around it. This center blue eye is magnetic and seems to be calling you, and you yearn to connect with the sun. But as you seek to connect with it, you become aware of the space between you and it and its distance. And there's no way one would think of passing through that space or shortening that space or connecting directly with the sun. In your yearning to connect, you're filled with concern because here within your vision is a promise of eternal life and wisdom. Here is the potential of lifting that soul from darkness into light. Yet this gulf spans between you and that promise of fulfillment, solar fulfillment. So take a look at this space. Take a inner look. As you look, the space becomes dark and you draw back because this space is unknown. This darkness is unknown. Yet the sun still beckons. Yet it's clear that between you and that solar disk, with that blue radiating magnetic center, there's a void, a dark void. As that sun calls to you, magnetizes as or seeks to magnetize you to it. In your heart of hearts, you know what that void really is. It's simply your fear. It's the darkness of or fear of your own ignorance. It's the fear, your own ignorance in itself, which stretches out before you to bar entry into the saving light of that solar disk we know as the sun. And isn't it apropos? Because within every journey of the hero, there appears that insurmountable challenge for us to attain. Knowing this, you take a firmer grip upon yourself and look steadily across that void into the blue inner magnetic center of the sun. And as you look into that blue inner center, that magnetic eye, a pathway is formed of silver and golden threads of light. This pathway at first seems extremely narrow, stretches across that gulf, that seeming void, and you realize that that pathway has always really been there. It is so narrow, it resembles a razor's edge. Yet having not seen it before, you know this is the way for you to connect and move into that magnetic power that is calling you. Suddenly, without consciously taking but one step, you are deep within the heart of the sun, within a new reality. Here is the humanity you thought you left behind. For all humanity is one. For here is the one life that reaches deep into the heart and mind of everyone to form their soul and give them sustenance. This is the world teacher, also known as the Christ, head of the hierarchy, the kingdom of conscious souls, Maitreya, the master of all masters. This is that world teacher who has given himself so that humanity might grow, live, evolve, develop in its highest possible way. Here, within that blue disk, we are all brothers. And yet, in that dim, dark world, as you stood upon that mountain pinnacle, looking over all that you could see, you were aware that humanity is unaware of our connection to each other. We know it not. Here, within this magnetic blue golden sun, is divinity, known as the Father, the Mother, and the Son. Here is what is called the good, the true, and the beautiful. That life in which we live, move, and have our being, and in which we are one. Take a moment and savor the realization of this oneness that we are. Experience the sense of unity, of love for each other. Just as suddenly, in the blink of a moment, you are back on that mountaintop, standing on the brink of the void, with that narrow ribbon of silver and golden light stretching out before you, knowing that it is your task to cross it step by step. Later, much later, you will discover a deeper and more profound meaning underlying this tiny thread of light. But for now, you know only that it constitutes the pathway out of your own spiritual unknowing into the wisdom of your soul. Let's take a moment and look at the symbolism within these references. The mountaintop symbolizes that center between the brows, which will be your first home in the world of mind or the mental realm that we're moving to. It is not actually at the point between the brows. It actually extends about 3 inches beyond the brow. Then later, as we become comfortable in that space, we can extend it out even further, 3 to 6 inches beyond the brow. But there is where you will take up your residence, consciously learning to live in the head. We call this center between the brows the Ajna center, of course. It is from this point of focus that we are enabled to control the forces of our instrument. The Ajna center is called the switchboard for all of the major chakras below it. Focused in this Ajna center, your Ajna center, one is able to look out upon our world with a clearer vision of it, able to see it as it really is in reality, free from emotion, which often hides what is true in our search for reality if we're not localized there within the ajna. With such vision, the automatic response mechanism, your vehicle, can be brought under control so that our responses to our environment are premeditated to produce the greatest good for the greatest number. One should know that focused within the ajna center, it gives one an ability to not become emotionally disturbed or out of control. It is that one location in your being where you can go and not be flooded by emotions, but stand in clarity. So it takes practice, habitual practice, to get here, to get there, to know how to get there. Know and practice. Learn. When emotional reaction threatens to engulf you, to stand steady within the ajna or in the ajna center. And there, take the time to contemplate truth. The sun, which is shining above the mountain top, symbolizes your soul. But at the same time, because your higher self knows no separation, it symbolizes the soul of all of humanity, and that life which is indwelt within that master of masters, within which we live, move, and have our being. The soul center does resemble the sun in many ways, but it is not, of course, found within the frequency of physical plane substance. It is located in a much higher frequency, above the top of the head, where it overshadows the personality. It is, however, reflected into the very center of the head as a small golden sphere of light, resembling a tiny golden sun. When the personality begins to aspire toward the soul, that is when this tiny golden sun in the very center of the head begins to become activated. As the personality continues to seek truth and endeavors to apply that truth in its daily life and affairs, the overshadowing soul, that soul above, that soul that is a part of us, that is us, above and free of the form, infuses the personality with its energies via this reflection of itself into the center of the head where that small golden sun is. Ultimately, this leads to what is known as, and I've talked about this before, the divine marriage, the union of soul and persona, the union of soul and the indwelling soul, where the persona becomes the vehicle of the soul rather than the vehicle of the personality, okay? Or the mask of the personality. This center does not truly exist until the personality, through its own discipline and effort, begins to invoke the attention of the overshadowing soul downward. And as it does so, it begins to come into being, or as it does begin to come into being, the wisdom of the soul pours into the mind and brain of the personality, and we gradually, over time, become enlightened. And that level of enlightenment, believe me, I mean, I said over time, but sometimes it doesn't have to take long. Depending on the intensity, depending on the person. There are people who are becoming enlightened like this right now. Especially the closer we are moving to 2025, which is a very important time wherein the hierarchy of souls, the kingdom of conscious souls, will be gathering and meeting to plan and focus on the divine plan for humanity for the next long period of time. The vast expanse of sky between the mountaintop and the sun symbolizes the area of mind that must be bridged by the aspiring personality before we can be born again in the consciousness of the soul. That's what born again really means. Born again means that the personality is no longer in charge. The soul is in charge. The inner work has been done. That threshold has been spanned. The soul has taken over the persona, and the persona now is a vehicle within or for the soul to work in this time and space. And the human being's focus becomes service to humanity rather than service to self or tribe or family only. Becomes service to a wider group. It becomes a dark void as we contemplate it. First, because it's unknown, and secondly, because we fill it with terror and the ignorance of our own subconscious when we seek to span that gulf. We experience a glimpse of our higher self in the kingdom of God or the kingdom of conscious souls. We know for a thrilling moment the joy of promised fulfillment. And then we see that dark void which has to be spanned, which has to be crossed by every human being. In the midst of our fear, our concern, our doubt, all that we go through before we actually do the work, as we fasten our gaze upon the heart of the one life, out of which our purpose comes, a pathway is formed. Simply through our aspiration and our desire, our will. It is made up of a silver and golden thread of light so narrow, as we said before, it resembles a razor's edge. The silver light is that of the Christ or the world teacher as he reaches out to aid the aspiring disciple. And each one of us becomes a disciple when through persistent aspiration and continuous right action, we respond to the magnetic influence of the spiritual soul. The golden light is the disciple's own consciousness as he willfully goes forward to join his life to that of the world teacher, also known as the Christ, or the head of the kingdom of conscious souls, master of masters. Along this narrow path, we must find our way across the void of our own mind into full waking consciousness of ourself as the Son of Divinity, the Son of God. In the Father's kingdom. You will note that the term disciple is used as I defined it for you. This is because the aspiring personality has become the disciple of the Master of Masters when it decides to focus that way, focus on the soul, connecting with soul. The moment it reaches out with its own consciousness to cross that void, one becomes a disciple. Discipleship is defined as the movement of the incarnated soul from theory to work. It is a stage of process. It's a process in and of itself because the activity of discipleship implies a realization of the soul and the divine plan and the courage to serve both. And the divine plan is that etheric network or blueprint of Earth during this planetary incarnation, which means the divine plan changes according to each planetary incarnation or solar incarnation as well. It gives you much to think about. The path in the mind is reflected outwardly in the life of disciples as they apply the teachings of the world teacher to their everyday affairs. I'll read that again. That was an important statement. The path in the mind is reflected outwardly in the life of disciples as they apply the teachings of the world teacher or the Christ to their everyday affairs. It is a narrow edge they walk in the world, yet it is so broad as to include every human being as their brother. Pause for a few minutes now and focus the consciousness in the cave of the heart center. As you've been doing each morning in your meditation, and remember, the heart center is about 3 to 6 inches behind the point where the shoulders, if you were to flex the shoulders backwards, where the shoulders meet, that center point, 3 to 6 inches outside of that point in the back of the body. Visualize also, as you do this, the center between the brows. See that center between the brows, 3 inches or so beyond your brow, that center point of the brow, in the front of the head, beyond the head. See it as a golden yellow color. See it almost as a pyramid, three-dimensional pyramid. And think toward it as the new center of residence within your body. Then visualize the tiny golden miniature of yourself in that center and focus your consciousness there. So shrink an image of yourself into a tiny golden miniature. and send that miniature version of yourself into that golden pyramid, 3 inches beyond the brows, the center of the brow. Poised in the head, in the ajna center between the brows, contemplate the following concept for a few moments. I state your name, a son of God. Integrate the forces of my body, emotions, and mind to aspire to my Father's kingdom. Let there be light upon my path. Spend a few moments in the ajna center, radiating that light and love into and through your environment. Attempt to do this exercise each morning at a regular time. And conduct your affairs throughout the day from this ajna center focus. Reestablish yourself within this center when you find that you are no longer there. You are building a muscle, a habit, a new dwelling for your consciousness. You are moving in doing so from an emotional polarity into the mental. And your work in scaling this mountain over the last few months has afforded you the experiences, the awareness, and a deeper understanding and appreciation of you as a part of humanity in brotherhood and sisterhood, knowing you are one connected to that higher frequency that is soul. Understanding that we are here through a divine mission to grow within the kingdom, if we so choose, no longer simply kingdom of humanity, but moving from the kingdom, from the path of experience into the kingdom of conscious souls. through discipline. Take a deep breath. And upon releasing it, return to normal focus. I thank all of you for your focus, your attention to this meditative experience that we have just gone through. And if you want to review the lessons on the mountaintop, go back to, I think it was somewhere between lesson 13 and 15, I'm going to say, or let me see, meaning somewhere between, okay, this is October. Yes, somewhere around, I think maybe June, July. Okay? June, July's global meditation. See if you find it there. If you don't, contact me. I'll be able to find it for you and make sure you get it. It's a joy to be with all of you. I thank you so much, and I thank the Institute for Global Transformation for allowing me to do this work. It's important that this meditation become a habit in your life, because all the other sessions that are upcoming will be dependent upon it. Okay? You want to move concertedly into mental polarization. You want to understand why. You know, our sessions before were, who are we? How do we learn who we are? How do we work with that? Understanding emotional polarization and what it looks like and why we're seeing so much of it now. And realizing that humanity as a whole, as a collective, part of this shakedown we're experiencing is because humanity is moving from an emotional, is being forced to move, in most cases, from an emotional polarization into a mental one. Not everybody is going to do it, of course. There will be those who are left behind of their own choosing. But overall, there is a tipping point happening as we speak. Humanity is moving into its next level of growth. The planet is moving into its next level of initiation, which includes every kingdom, and we are a kingdom within this planet. Moving into a new and building a new kingdom. We've only known 4 heretofore, but then truth, there are 7 kingdoms. The 5th kingdom is now coming online, the kingdom of conscious souls. These are exciting times that we are in. These are frightening times that we are in. All of that is true. Uncertainty, growth, in and of itself, be it on a collective level or on an individual level, is disconcerting. There's always going to be a sense of uncertainty. when we are walking someplace and we've never been in a whole new arena we've never been before. So we have the benefit of going together as a group. And it might appear that we are by ourselves, but trust and know that we are not, and that all we need do is ask for guidance. As it said here, let there be light upon my path. As we aspire to span the bridge and move in to the higher realm. It's truly a gift and an opportunity. Until next time, I've enjoyed being with you. Take good care. Hasta luego. Until the next time. Bye-bye.